am Yolanda Rasco, and welcome to Griot Connects podcast. I'm here with Dr. Sandra Elizabeth Ford. She is an MD, MBA, FAAP. I just love all those credentials, but her resume is quite impressive. She's a board-certified pediatrician who's worn so many hats, from leading public health initiatives in DeKalb County to advising the White House on public health matters. And Dr. Ford's passion clearly lies in connecting with people and improving their health. She's led so many projects to help people get more Medicaid, focused on maternal and child health care, even getting support from our R&B star, Usher Raymond. Drum roll, please.
Yes, my favorite.
Oh, that part. And she's all into tackling these big health crises like COVID-19 and advising the White House on that. And so with her experience and dedication, she's made a huge difference in so many lives. So we're completely honored and thrilled to have you, Dr. Elizabeth Ford. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Oh, listen, we're going to work you today.
Yes,
We've got stuff to talk about because today, folks, we are diving into a topic that affects so many lives. It's the big D, divorce. Yeah, divorce and the journey beyond that. So we'll be exploring how to not just survive divorce, but to truly thrive in that decade that follows that significant life change. It's a big one. Our guide here for this conversation is an expert who has a lived experience that I think is really going to sound familiar to so many women today. So get ready for an insightful discussion that offers hope, practical advice, and a roadmap for building a fulfilling life after divorce. So to get that conversation started, I'd like to introduce you to today's guest is Dr. Toyin Falusi. Now, Dr. Falusi is an accomplished board-certified infectious disease physician. She's also a clinician, researcher, medical director, educator, and she's passionate about HIV, the epidemic, and eradicating that. It's been her passion for over 25 years. Her experience, Dr. Falusi has been committed to addressing health inequities with a real focus on improving the quality of life for people who are living with HIV, not only HIV, but the viral disease of hepatitis B and C, and those who would really benefit from pre-EP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis. I got that. Not that, but I could say it. I'm so happy I can say it. So Dr. Falusi is really a professional, a professor of medicine. She has published over 60 articles and presented over 85 abstracts in the area of HIV and aging, hepatitis C, and health disparities. So aside from all of those incredible accolades, believe it or not, she's lived a life. And that life included a divorce. It was a tough time. It was a season of divorce and rebuilding, and that's what we're here to talk about today. She's just like all of us. She has put it on paper, and she's going to help us understand how to move forward. And her book is called The Decade After: Surviving and Thriving After Divorce. Dr. Falusi, welcome to Griot Connects, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'm really excited to be part of this conversation. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yes. Absolutely. Thanks for coming. And Dr. Ford, can you kick us off today?
Sure, happy to. Dr. Toyin, so happy to have you here today.
Yep.
My fellow Mocha doc. We're talking about a topic that unfortunately is way too common, particularly in the African American community. I was doing some reviews, and it said 70% of Black marriages end in divorce. I hope that that's not correct, but if it is, it's shocking. And that's in comparison to 50% of the general population. We think, that higher education and income are protective factors, but studies have shown that it's not true for Black women. Right. And so Black women have a twice the divorce rate of Hispanic women, and this is a thing. This is a big thing, and as much as we all want the happy ever after, apparently that's not happening as much as we would like. So your book is very timely, and I just wondered, what was your inspiration for writing this book, and what are the key messages that you hope we'll be able to take away from your story?
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Ford. And like you said, I mean, the stats are just what you talked about. But again, we always have to say, well, we can look at stats for the population, and then how do we look at, for the particular individual? And so I think for mine is, when you look at the stats and the stats of what happens to children of divorce, or what happens with, people going through a divorce, it can be, like you said, it's pretty staggering. It can be overwhelming. And I think my impetus for writing the book was to share my experience going through a divorce, which, like you said, no one goes into the marriage planning for a divorce. But my experience and how you can emerge on the other end of that, stronger growth that comes from that adversity, and how you can actually emerge better, not bitter. And so my impetus was to make sure that I shared my experience in a way that allowed women to see themselves through that process, but to know that they are stronger than they know, that they are more than enough, and that they can get better from the process and not bitter. That was my biggest one. The second was that if there are children involved during that divorce, to put the children first, to prioritize them, so that they have a shot at having an outcome that is not wrought with all the statistics. But how can we protect our children through a process that is not anything of their fault? The two adults have decided to go their separate ways, but how do we manage our children and make sure they have the support and the care that they need throughout there? So those were my inspiration. My two daughters, to go when I was going through the divorce, and for women to make sure that you can find the support and the if any part of my journey or tips or tricks that I shared helps, to make sure that you realize that who you are is not defined by your divorce. It's a chapter in your life. Your life is still being written, and you're an active part of that. And so the divorce does not define you.
I wish I had known you 20 years ago.
I know, right? Dr. Ford, is this a personal experience for you as well?
Sure, I'm a part of that statistic, unfortunately. And as are you. So it's way more common. And like you said, we don't go into it with that hope, but you also need to protect your peace and know when it's time to go. So
yeah, it's so true. I have to raise my hand to that as well. I'm in that statistic, and it was probably the hardest time of my life, I would have to say, Doc. And I don't know about you ladies, but like you say, when you experience something where it was once so beautiful and we were all so happy,
Yeah.
and then we weren't. It is absolutely devastating. And so I'm so glad that we're talking about it today, because at the end of the day, what you're saying, we have to figure out how to be better and not bitter.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's perfect, right? Because I ain't gonna lie, I was bitter, baby.
It is tough.
Listen,
it is tough.
It
and
was
anyone
hard.
who thinks that, because you'll hear, we can share experiences
Yeah.
where sometimes people think the divorce is the easy way out. No matter who pulls the plug,
Right.
no matter who does, it is the end of something that was planned to be for forever,
Planned
or for
to
a long
be
time.
forever.
Yes, planned to be
So
forever.
It was exciting at one time.
It's tough, right?
And now we're all sad. Now we're just, trying to figure out how to put one foot in front of the other, how to get over to that next
Correct.
place. So I'm so glad you wrote the book, because you're talking about that, how to get over. And you started just a moment ago bringing in the children, which I want to kind of piggyback on that for a second, because
Okay.
there's casualties.
Yes.
Right? There's
Collateral damage.
Yes.
damage, unintended consequences,
Right.
to that. And there's so many. When you marry into a family, you
Family.
build a family, and then there's the community on top of that. So,
Mm.
so many people had great expectations and well wishes and intentions for you. And now here we all sit in mud,
Mm.
with egg on our faces and trying to figure out, like I say, how to move forward. Let's talk about the children for a
Yes.
moment and how to create a supportive and loving environment when you yourself are
Self.
at your lowest point in life, probably. Right. But you have around you your treasure, your children.
Yes.
And
Right.
so, can you talk to us about the stages that you went through and how you established a parenting routine that would support your children through this crisis? Talk to us.
Yes, thank you so much. And you use the word treasures
Yeah.
because they are the children in that process, right? The two of you that are deciding to go your separate ways are adults. So already, children already sometimes feel this guilt. Like, was it my fault? Is it because I didn't do
Right.
my homework? Depending on how old they were. And when I got divorced, my daughters they were 5 and 6, so very young. And so again, I'm a nerd, so I use a lot of stats. If you read my book, I use medicine and analogies and things. But when you look at the statistics of divorce, right? They tell you kids of divorce are statistically more likely to, and those stats are never great. It's always they're more likely to have substance use issues, more likely to have trauma with this, more likely to have school issues. There's a lot of things. But I said, we do that in medicine. And Dr. Ford like, you know what? There's statistics and then there's individual. So
Exactly.
what are variables that we can control? I mean, that's how I really went into it. Because I didn't have,
Okay.
when I was going through my divorce 20 years ago, I didn't have any close friends who were divorced. My parents are still happily married. My siblings were married or still single. So I didn't have personal close people who I could go to. So I did a lot of reading but what I said was the one variable that is unchangeable is that we're getting a divorce, period. Everything else, right, we can alter to see hopefully that our kids can have a better outcome, right? Some of those things include really putting them first. I had a hashtag then, hashtag put the children first, which means that
That's a good
we
one.
have to put ourselves in their spot, right? We're going through a lot of emotions, like you said, Yolanda. We're processing things. Life is still happening around us. The world doesn't stop because you're going through a divorce, right? Work is going on. Bills need to be paid. Things are
That
still
part.
going on.
Life is still lifing.
Yep.
Life is lifing. And so you just have to say, okay, what can I do to protect them? And understand that they're also going through a lot of stages. And children are different. Some are more expressive and will tell you what they're thinking. Some will become withdrawn. Some will start to act out. Some will want to be around other people. So it's being really attentive to them, both what they say and what they don't say. Being very careful the people around them, and also knowing that they're going through different stages, just like you are, right? So, if you look at Kubler-Ross, went through the stages of grief. Divorce is a grief process. It's a traumatic life event. So if you look at the Kubler-Ross model, it talks about, denial, right? Denial, then there's anger, then there's bargaining, then there's depression, and then eventually acceptance. It doesn't mean everybody goes through those 5. Sometimes
Say
you're
that
already in the
again, because I like
acceptance, and then you
that.
go back.
That's the
And we,
Kubler-Ross.
Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, yes.
yes,
Tell us about that again
yes.
slowly. We ain't nobody else is doctors but the two of y'all. Break it on down. Come on, give it to me.
So it's those 5 stages, and Dr. Ford we use that when we're talking about grief. Even when we're telling patients, sometimes a cancer diagnosis, a new diagnosis. Sometimes when I tell people new diagnosis of HIV, when people hear something that is sad or grief process, there's different stages. Initial is denial, right? That's the first stage. The second is anger, kind of like, why me? What's going on? And then there's a bargaining, right? Are you sure? Can I get a second
If I do
opinion?
this, will I get that? Yeah.
Exactly.
This is when they
Like, what
bargain
if
with
we?
God.
Yes.
Okay.
If you just spare my life, I won't ever X
Yes.
again, or.
Right. And then there's the depression phase, which can last for a long time. Sometimes that can come first, where you're just kind of like, it's on your way to acceptance. And you're like, I'm bargained, I'm angry. And then there's the acceptance phase. And sometimes you think you're already in acceptance, and then you have a trigger that pulls you back all the way to bargaining. Somebody says something, you're like, oh, maybe there's a chance.
Yeah.
And maybe, so for the kids, it's a lot. So if you're trying to co-parent effectively, but they see you speaking with their other parent, they may be like, oh, maybe they're getting back together. And you're not. You're just trying to make sure that we have clear rules when they're at each other's. So we have to think about those stages and lean into the kids. And also the different models I talk about in the book. Some of it is disorganization, there's despair, but bottom line is to be attentive, to put them as what I say, I use the word North Star, because when we do that, it's easier for us. Doesn't mean it's easy. It's easier sometimes to put some of our emotions in check or to process our emotions with other adults just to protect them because
I
of
like
what they're
that.
feeling, and to not make them our therapists,
Right.
like let our children not be our therapists. Let somebody else do that. And let's protect their childhood and know that, we have colleagues who, sometimes you get divorced, the kids are much older. We think, oh, it's easy, they're already in college.
It's
It
never
doesn't
easy.
matter.
That's your family unit. And I think those last two stages, depression and acceptance, they go back and forth.
Back
You
and
might, you
forth.
might think you've accepted,
Yeah.
and then you'll go back to depression, and then you go back to accept. I
Yeah.
mean, so they're not linear.
Yes,
They're not
And
linear
so
at
that's
all.
something we need to understand with our children also,
And
that they may
that's
bounce.
absolutely.
because that's a piece that I don't think I did very well at, is understanding that the child is going through these 5 stages and they're not going through it with you or at the same time or at the same
Because they're
pace.
individuals, yeah.
And it iterates. It like you say, it may start here and then kind of backtrack and move forward. Yeah, parents, let's be very, very much more mindful and aware that this is happening. And
It
and
is.
how did you have to I don't know, how did you support? What kind of support
Yeah,
were you able to provide
to
your
provide
children
for
during
them.
this stage?
Yeah, so balance, I think, is also very important because sometimes you can want to overcompensate, like, oh, they're going through a rough time, so let me just buy them stuff, let me do all this
Yeah, that's
stuff.
what I was
We have
wondering.
to, you have to really think about, we don't want to overcompensate, right? Life is different. A lot of times people have to move out of places that they lived in. Sometimes kids have to change schools. There's a lot of things going on. So one of the ways is to figure out what are some things that can be consistent through all of the changes that are going on. What about things that are consistent? So if there are people that were part of your lives that are consistent, if there are routines that can continue, but also establishing new ones, right? So yes, we're not opening Christmas presents all together with dad and mom and all that. But what are some new routines that we can create?
Yes.
Holidays will not look the same anymore, may not look the same anymore. What are some new routines? And letting them be part of that process. And then being in tune with them to know how they express themselves. My older daughter loved to write, and she still writes now. She just graduated med school last weekend.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
And so
Awesome.
20
Another
years
monkey in the
ago,
making.
yeah, she just,
Love it.
another mocha. But she still continues to write and does journaling and poetry in med school. But it was during that process, that was her outlet. And boy, she wrote a lot of things. Sometimes I would go to the 5th grade, talent thing. It would be something she wrote about her parents' divorce. I was like, girl, she's telling all our business. But that was her way of processing. She wrote a lot. My other daughter liked to dance and theater and stuff, so I would do dance stuff with her. And just that was how she expressed herself. And then it's just being there, listening to them, making sure that we're not dumping how we feel about their other parent on them, and trying to separate, is that person a good parent? They may have been a horrible spouse. They may be the person that's no longer your person. But if they're able to have a parenting relationship with your children, that's important for them because it will only be kids a short time. After
Right.
that, they're adults. And sometimes we've moved on. We've had therapy. My daughters also had options for therapy, and they did therapy because we, as adults, eventually get through our process, we figure out therapy, but that was their childhood and they can't get that back.
They can't get that back. They can't get that back. So you said a mouthful, I am telling you, and it's all very, very important stuff, especially like don't sit at breakfast with your coffee muttering into your cup about the no good, low down.
Yeah.
Right. You just can't do it.
You got to take the high road.
You got to take the high road.
Which is not easy sometimes.
It's not. We've said it's not easy, but you just
really
cannot put them first. It's not.
So wait a
Because
minute.
we're human
Somebody
too.
has to channel Michelle Obama.
Yes, you had to go high, but you really want to go low.
You really want to be there.
Even for a second. You know, but I guess
we're
have
not
to.
perfect, There are going to be times you know.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, it is a growth process. It's a growing experience for everyone, is what I think I hear you saying. And it feels like we have to just kind of be kind to ourselves as well going through that process, because I'm just kind of going back to my season of darkness, right? It was not easy. I'm like your daughter. I did a lot of writing in that time, and writing helped me to sort out. I mean, I didn't even have anything that was in particular that I wanted to say, but I knew I had so many confusing things to think about, and who am I now? And okay, what does an ex-wife look like? And, how does life go forward in this new world? And how do I build a new world? So just lots and lots and lots of things. And writing for me was very cathartic, I will say.
Brought up such a great point about defining like, who am I and what is this? Because, when you're single, before you decide to couple up, you're this incredible person you're living an independent life. From you're single, you're independent.
Yes.
And then marriage is a state of interdependence, right? You go from independence to interdependence, where decisions are jointly made. You have all your future plans, everything's tied, which is good when the interdependence works. But then when it's like a free fall for something that you thought was going to be, and then trying to define like navigating life outside of this interdependence where you've gotten used to being part of a duo.
Right.
It's tough.
Right. And figuring all of that out ain't easy. Like that go forward. How in the world do I get up off of this floor? Well, talking about getting up off of the floor.
So we've, the main piece of this is how to navigate your life after you divorce, and that comes with dating. I think about you as an infectious disease doctor, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what dating. Even as a pediatrician, I'm always like, I always think about diseases, and oh my gosh, should I be swabbing this person, or
oh my goodness,
you think about especially right now. Do I put him on PrEP just to be on the safe side? Because there is. Listen, Atlanta is one of the hot spots for infectious diseases, so this is not just a thought.
Point.
So it is something that we need to think about. But I wondered, like, when do you know when it's time to start your chapter? Because you have to, once you get your kids straight and your, the details of your divorce straight, now it's time to start living your life again. So how did you figure out when you were ready to do that, and how did that go about? Especially with young children.
Right. So you completely nailed it, your chapter. And so that's something that I think is really important for every, because obviously I'm speaking as a woman for the other women, so I can't speak to other genders, but I think you'll have to know when you're ready. When you're ready, not when your friends think you should be dating, not when your mother says you should get out there, not when your kids are like, Mom, we need to have, when you're ready, right? So that's your timeline, and also what you want, right? And I always say, it's very important to make sure that what you want and what you say and what you're doing are all aligned, right? If you really you're wanting to be out there, you want to date, you want to have fun, you were married for forever, and you just want to have fun, it's casual, you're not trying to get hooked up or paired up, be very clear that's what it is, and nobody gets the right to judge you. It's your life. if you know that, you want to get married again very soon, either for whatever reason, your decision, don't let anybody shame you or guilt you. Because sometimes women were the worst to each other. Like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
so
she just
true.
got divorced and she's dating
She's
again.
already
It's
dating.
it's
Right, right,
her
right,
life.
right.
It's her life. It's her decision. She's an adult. Let her do what she needs to do for herself.
Everybody got an opinion.
Everybody. I
Yes,
love that you said that. It's your
I
choice.
It
put
is so
it
Oh,
true.
she's
is.
already out there. Or the other hand, man, she ever gonna start dating again? I mean, you can't
Exactly.
win.
Yeah.
You can't.
Too
So
soon is
just
always too soon. Too long is, I mean, it's,
is
Right.
there is no real formula, is it?
correct. There isn't. And that's why because the people that actually will input more into that are usually other women. So we
Yes.
have a whole chapter in my book about let's support each other
Yeah.
with our children, with not judging each other, all of that. And so your timeline, what you want, is it casual? Is it real? And just stating what you want. You're an adult, you know exactly what you want. For me, I needed a lot more time. I realized that. And I was very clear. So as people would be like, oh, you should do this, like, I need time. I was so hyper focused, which doesn't mean it was right, on the kids and making sure I didn't introduce, new people to them and all of that. But it was like, when you're ready to be out there, and also protect yourself. You talked about that. So I'm glad you brought that, Dr. Ford. And my infectious disease brain is
You never
not
turn that
separate.
off.
It's not separate from so even in
Sure.
my book, I used it as an opportunity to talk about HIV and STIs and PrEP. I talk about it. It's about 3 or 4 pages in there, and not in a way to scare people, but to say, you know what? From when you were part of a relationship, especially if you were not in an open marriage, if you were in a closed
Right.
monogamous marriage or monogamish marriage, going back out there can be a bit daunting, right? But it's not to scare you. There are tools in there to protect yourself. So being able to have those open conversations about HIV and HIV testing, knowing, like you said, that there's pre-exposure prophylaxis. Atlanta, like you said, is one of the places where there's a higher rate of HIV diagnosis. So it's important to know about the communities in which you're in, where you're living, working. Again, we all date, live, work, pray in the communities, being aware of that, knowing your options to protect yourself, being able to
Right.
have those conversations, and just using that time. Because sometimes as women, especially when you're married, if you have kids, your health is like the lowest on the
Very
totem
last
pole.
thing. Absolutely.
You
Smallest
take
priority.
Yep.
right? You
Yeah.
make sure the kids go to their pediatrician, so they see the Dr. Ford. You make sure that mom gets to see the geriatrician. You make sure that your auntie who says, I need a doctor to come with me to
Right.
understand. So, but your own, mammogram, your pap smear,
Right.
your bone health screening and stuff. So I put it in the context of your health, right?
Yeah.
This is your version 2.0. You're going to emerge from this divorce better, but not just physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You've done the work. And then your health. So your sexual health is part of your overall health. And that's in the
I like
context I
that.
put it. So it wasn't to scare you off, but it was to talk about, we're prioritizing us, okay?
Right.
And us is like all
That's
of your
the key.
health,
Yeah.
including
the
your
key.
sexual health.
And I love that you did that, really,
Yes.
because
Reality.
yeah, that's the reality of it. And you took a holistic approach, meaning everything about you and your life has changed.
Yes.
And the only person who can own what that new thing is you. So, figure out what your tomorrow should be, what you would like it to be, and then just, baby, get about putting it together,
And
including. Yeah, right?
Yes. And that dating thing, one of the things because I've done groups with women, I've done book clubs, and so we just open conversation. Sometimes there is, some insecurity that comes with, I've been out of the dating, I haven't dated in so long, I haven't gone on a first date in forever, depending on how long you were married. It can be intimidating. There's the game has changed, the selfie nudies, the DMs,
Right.
it's different,
Right. We didn't have all that back in the day.
Right. But
Thank God.
emerging, entering into this world. But the main thing is to go into it like that bold confidence that comes with, you're now an older woman. You're older and you're wiser. So
Seasoned.
that's not this is, no one's gonna want a woman with 2 kids. No, all those narratives are things that you change by just going out there and doing you the best that you can.
Right.
And just knowing that, yeah, it's just that confidence and just knowing that this is you, and whoever gets the chance to share your space, your time,
Right.
your body, it's a privilege. And when you approach it that way, no one can make you feel less than.
Ooh, girl, you
Because
don't say it a privilege.
I hope
it is to spend, like, life is busy. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm taking care of this. If we choose to spend time together, my body, my space, my time, my energy, it is a privilege.
See, that goes
Love
to my
that.
next question. I love that too, because now you are putting yourself first, right? So talk to us a little bit about that when it comes to establishing yourself as a priority so that you have something to give back, right, to those children and, to all of the rest of your community that is trying to figure things out. How did you get to that?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'd always heard, and it's not, you hear it all the time, but it's real, is you can't pour from an empty cup. We all talk about it,
There
and
it
sometimes
is.
Yes.
you kind of think, oh, that seems, when you're not going through stuff, some things seem cliche until you're like, oh, I know exactly what this means. And what that means is that as you're going through your divorce, trying to sort things out, like we said, life is happening. You don't get to not go to work. You don't get to not do what you need to do. You actually have to be there, try to figure out, okay, I have kids in different grades. There's parent-teacher night, who's doing what, all of that stuff.
All
But you
of
have
it.
to figure out, if you're not healthy, no one's going to be healthy, especially if you're the anchor for a lot of things. So protecting your time and space as much as you can. One of the things that I didn't do as well, which at the end of my book, I talk about things I could have done better, right? Because I wrote the book, I wrote it 12 years after my divorce. I didn't. So it was just a combination of things along the way, was accepting help, right? I went into, I can do, you know what, I don't need anybody. Whatever, right? I got this. And
I'm
that's
independent.
not,
I could do things.
yeah. And that's not a good, and now I teach people about help and asking for help, right? And accepting help when it's offered, right? There's two different things. Asking for help and accepting when it's offered is actually a sign of strength, not weakness.
Yes.
It's not that it's okay. It's actually a sign of strength, because what it means is that for you to ask for help, you realize what you need, what you can or cannot do, and who you can go to for help. That tells a lot about you. It means you have
It
a
does,
network
doesn't it?
Yes,
that is
absolutely.
solid.
Yeah.
And when people offer help and you accept it, it doesn't mean, again, sometimes people during a divorce will offer help so they can get access to your backstory. And you have to be
Right.
discerning. You have to
Right.
be
They want you to
discerning.
come and pour the tea.
Right. What
Yeah,
happened,
and
girl?
then,
Did he really? What? I
yeah,
heard
and
such
then,
and such and such and such.
yeah, then they go tell your stuff out there and all that. So,
Yeah.
there's some discernment and wisdom that comes through in that process. You're just like, and maybe it's just that grief and the hard place. You start to understand, because friends will fall off. There are people who
That
will
part.
fade
Oh my
away.
Next
God.
topic. That's
Oh, okay.
exactly.
So, being able to just take care of yourself. I did therapy. I went to
Okay.
a therapist. I made sure that my support system, when people offered help, my siblings and people who I trusted, I did that. Even with the kids, they knew mom time. Like, there were hours of during the weekend where I'm like, I'm going to be in my room
Set
unless it's an
aside.
emergency. Do not. And they knew that. Like, mom,
Yeah.
the phone was off. It was done. So I made clear time for myself that they were aware of, and I did things that were of interest to me. So by accepting help, sometimes it would be during their they had Awana, which is a church group they go to on Wednesday evenings. It was an hour and a half. I took my Zumba classes that time. It was very
Right.
scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
So I did things that made me feel better for myself. I protected my time when I could. I allowed people to help. Could have been better with that. And I just also processed. I did a lot of writing also, but I therapy and just how I can use this pain opportunity and not have wasted pain, right? Because there's a lot of pain. How do you not waste that pain and
Wasted
make it
pain.
something? Wasted pain
That's
is
a
not
book
good.
in and of
Yes.
itself.
Pain is good.
Wasted
But
pain.
wasted pain,
Don't
But
waste
you-
that pain,
No,
y'all.
no,
Use
no.
it. Make it work for you.
But I love your strategy because I'm listening to you as a pediatrician, and what you were doing is teaching your children boundaries
Oh,
and
they
how
will
to
talk to you
respect
about
boundaries,
boundaries.
That
your
part.
boundaries, because your children think you're 24/7 access, and it's like, no, this is time I need you, and that's good. That's important because we're raising a lot of kids that don't have boundaries these days.
Oh,
So I think
I
that's an
do.
important side benefit of you, the
Thank
way
you.
you're managing that.
I hadn't even thought about it that way,
Yeah.
but it so carries over till now that unless it's an emergency, even now they like text. They're like, "Mom, is this a good time to
Yes.
call?" Like they'll
I mean,
text
that's
first,
key.
and it's how we've been. They know I have, and they know if it's an emergency. Call mom
Hmm.
in the middle of rounds, all of that. But even yeah, they knew mom's like nap time. They knew that my classes were this. They knew and it was like, do your own thing. Like also, it allowed them to like,
Right.
I'm not gonna hover.
Right.
And when I talk about balance is important, right? I was like, one of my pet peeves, and everyone knew, even before I had kids, was entitled kids. Like I always used to pray that God, when we get married and we have kids, I never want to have kids who navigate life feeling like the world owes them something. And
Mm.
sometimes with a divorce, you might feel like, oh, poor kids are this, so I need to like overcompensate and throw things at them and buy them all this stuff. We're not helping them
No.
really because they start to associate like gifts with what is going to soothe your pain, and it's
Right.
not. It's so I hadn't thought about it that way, but yes, boundaries, it's kind of like this is mom's time because if mom's not
Yeah.
happy,
Right.
if mom's
Yeah.
tired, she's
Yes.
gonna
No,
not be your
nobody else is
best.
going to be happy.
Right. Right. That old
And again,
adage.
your cup will be empty, like you said, and so you have to be the opportunities to fill your
Yeah.
cup.
Right. I agree with that wholeheartedly. You had a question about friendships.
Mm.
Yeah. So, in addition to your children, there's a lot of collateral damage that comes with divorce,
Oh
and
God.
kind of who gets the friends, and particularly now you're a single woman. And so there are certain, maybe the group that you associated with were all couples, and now you're not a couple anymore,
Right.
And so I had relationships that sort of fizzled out because now I'm the odd man out. And you mentioned in your book, some people don't want single women around their husbands. Now
Right.
that's a whole other discussion. But
That's
how do you manage that? How do you maintain relationships and even the family sometimes? Just because you divorce the husband doesn't necessarily mean you divorce the family, and so you might be really close with your sister-in-law still, or not. People also take teams. So how do you manage all that?
it's tough. You said it all. Like
It's
that's,
tough.
I think it is tough. And you absolutely said it all, Dr. Ford. That's literally, from family, from friends, from people who, sometimes think you took the easy way out, or people take
Yes,
sides.
yes,
And
I
some people
feel
would
that too.
they would do the slow fade. You just know that they just kind of fizzle
They
out,
on
like
their
you
way
said.
out.
Some
Hmm.
people just kind of hard stop. Some people feel like they have to choose sides. So they choose team XYZ. And if they're team the other side, they can't really associate with you. And it hurts. Because so think about it, the things that when you're going through stuff and then you now have other relationships implode because of that, it hurts. It's an extra layer of like, oh, I thought I could count on this person.
Right.
Right.
But I just, I always think about what is it, seek first to understand and then be understood. I see it's for some people, there's a stigma of divorce. And some people, believe it or not, I don't know if they think divorce is contagious. If you
Right.
come around them,
Sometimes it is.
their marriage, it's like their marriage is going to be. So there are people who fade out. There are people who don't know what to say when it's happening. And then there's been so much time that's gone on, they didn't reach out, then they don't know how to do it. And they just kind of stay off the side. And then there are people who, honestly think that everything was fine and it scares them,
Mhm.
right? Because just like every divorce is different, every marriage is different. But a lot of times, we all know that things happen behind closed doors that even our close family and friends are not privy to. There's a lot of things we
Right.
do to
Absolutely.
protect our union. So you could be in a subdivision, everybody has the same house, cut and paste, the same two dogs or one dog, two cars, three
Right.
kids, but that's where the similarities end, period. You could all be, that's it. And so for them, especially if they didn't see any signs of anything, and then all of a sudden you guys are not coupled, it scares people. They don't know how to navigate that. They do the slow fade. But there is an opportunity because new people come into your life during that time. Some people who you were not as close as become closer friends. You meet some people who are in your same experience. I made some friends with now people who were either going through a divorce or recently divorced after mine because we had shared interests and
Yeah.
things. So, and then there will be some of your friends who stay through. They stay through. They're like, it's going to be a couples thing, but if you still want to come, they accommodate you. They do things with you. They'll do other things with you. So, you know how they say they're friends for a lifetime, they're friends for a season, they're friends for a
Yes.
reason. So it's tough. So, and that's, I think, why the divorce process it's like a forced stop. So many things you have to evaluate.
It
You start to
is.
evaluate friendships, and then you see signs that, it really wasn't that deep of a friendship. It was just
Right.
because
You'll
we were
find
part
out who
of
your
this.
true friends are in the middle of a divorce for sure. You're
It's
right.
so
Yeah.
true. Who
And
were the
then
true friends?
Right.
Yeah, it allows you to, and I've had a couple of women who are in my book who are not going through a divorce, who hadn't gone through, but they said it helped them understand how to better support a friend going through
Mm-hmm.
this stuff and how to support them with their kids and just how to be there for them. And so I think,
I think that
you
was a
find,
big takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
That support thing from the other people who weren't
Your circle, yeah.
from your circle, from your tribe, and even from your family.
Mhm,
There are people in my family. I'll tell you a story. I tell this story all the time to folks, because it was a confusing thing. But I was in a book
mhm,
club. I am in a book club, and the founder and organizer, how I was introduced to the book club, they were the wife of my cousin, a very close cousin. We grew up together. I've spent time in their home all through the summers and lots of great memories. So we were close. And then there was a divorce. And oh, by the way, I didn't know how to react or respond to that. And over time, the cousin and I grew apart, but I grew closer to the wife, to the
Oh boy.
ex. Yeah, and it didn't play well.
Yeah.
That don't even sound right, do it?
You're just loyal. You're
Exactly.
blood's thicker than water.
Exactly. Those dynamics are so difficult. And I absolutely am sure there were probably better ways to navigate it. Lots of lessons learned out of that. Maybe an honest conversation with him would have been useful, or maybe just, to establish the boundaries. Hey, going forward, here's how maybe we can interact together. I just didn't know those answers. And so, to your point, I chose sides. And like I say, it didn't play well. It didn't play well. And to this day, if you're out there listening, cuz maybe there is a way to reestablish. But the point is, these are real lives and it has an impact not only on the two people who have dissolved, but it also has an impact on the tribe around it. And sometimes I think we have to extend grace to one another because we just don't know how to navigate it any better than we do. I don't think it's malicious. I think there's always good intent, but I do think that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, is because there's so many difficult choices that have to be made along the way.
Thank you so much for sharing that personal story. And I love how you said grace, because that's important. And
Yeah.
we're not going to get it perfect. We're not perfect human beings. Situations are not perfect. And there's a lot of emotions going on. That's not the time we make our most, concrete decisions. But
That
the
part.
grace and knowing that, the intention was not malicious, I think those are really important. But because of what you brought up around all the people that are going to be involved, the families and stuff, is also why sometimes people stay in marriages longer than they
Just for the
should.
peace.
And I
Longer
know
than
that
they
Dr.
should.
Ford,
Yes.
Dr.
Yeah.
Ford, sometimes you got to, it's done, you need to walk it, but then sometimes people think about all the things that, and then they
all the
just kind of
relationships.
like, yeah,
Yeah. It's complicated.
it is.
Understatement.
Well, I want to thank you for coming and thank you for writing the book. It's so personal.
It
And
is.
as you can see, 70% of the population in our community needs to hear about it and to figure it out. There are other great works out there, not so much just about this topic, but I like to always ask other authors, what are you reading these days? Do you have other authors that you'd like to shout out, other topics that you can share with us? What are you reading? What have you got on your
Right
nightstand?
now. So thank you so much. I read a lot, but right now I'm always reading two books at the same time, which is weird.
I wish I could
Like
do that.
I
Yeah, two at a time. I'd be
like
confused.
because I was like, oh, this. So I'm reading a Nigerian author, Chimamanda Adichie, right? Her new book is called Dream Count, and it follows the story of four different women, African women, and their stories with love and life. And so she's a really great author, and her newest book is what I'm reading right now. It's called Dream Count, and
Dream
then I'm
count.
reading T.D. Jakes.
Mm.
So
Aha.
I love T.D. Jakes, and the book that I'm
Who
reading,
doesn't
because
love TD
he
Jakes?
does like stuff, but this one is about it's called Instinct. I don't know if you've read it.
No.
It's called Instinct, and it's the power to unleash your inborn drive. So the whole book is about how, our God instinct, there's so many things, how powerful it is, and the science between our instinct, but how there's so many things that we are afraid to leap into because of fear. And how do you hone in your instinct and understand and discern to actually make decisions, right? In your personal life, in professional life, in your business, in taking risk and all that. So that's what I'm reading. I'm reading Instinct right now, and then I'm also reading Dream Count.
And two
Those
very
Yes.
different books too. So
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, very
Yes.
different, but very
Yeah.
good. Very interesting topics. Well, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to
Sure.
toss it back to you. Do you have anything else that you want to comment on or?
I wanted to know about just your thoughts, the family events. You've got the wedding of the nephew, and
Oh,
that was
God.
the husband's nephew, but they still wanted you to come. And is he going to come with the new wife or the new girlfriend? And these are things that happen all the time. Kids events.
Yeah.
I've seen physical brawls erupt at games sometimes
Ooh,
when the wrong person came to the game. And so, how do you navigate all of that?
Yeah.
Because you want to give a good example to your children, but sometimes you
Right.
the
think you
birthday
feel
parties,
all of that, right?
Yes.
graduations,
I'm
all.
bringing
Yeah.
my girlfriend, and so particularly
Yes.
if that person was the person that was involved in your split,
Yes.
that could be a whole situation.
Oh, now it's getting
Um,
And
ugly.
it
and so
is.
how do you manage that and still try to be gracious and again
Yeah.
Michelle Obama us and take the high road when you might want to
Yeah.
smash her in the cake? So
It's right. And again, I can't remember how many times we said it's tough. It is. And it is tough. And when I got divorced, the kids were much younger, and I call him my co-parent. My lawyer said, oh, you know what, when you use the word when I remember when I met my lawyer, so when you use the word co-parent, because as long as you guys are both alive, you're going to be co-parents to those
I
kids.
like that.
And that every time she said she learned from just one of her clients who shared that with her. And so she shared it was my first meeting with my divorce lawyer. She said, that may help in terms because no matter how much longer you go, every time you say X, it kind of takes you back to that negative, whatever. She said, if you can use the term co-parent, that's an ongoing relationship.
That's a great
Um,
tip.
it was tough because we were in the same school district because he had a new, family. The kids went, so it was tough. And yes, for birthday parties and, to show up and
Every year.
grace. It was prayers and grace and North Star because it was kind of like for the kids, it was important for them to be around their dad. And so
Right.
it was tough. And my family, I remember there were times when my family was like, I don't even know how you do this. And they were even more, I was just like, just zen, do what you need to do. And doesn't mean it's tough. The more if you're able to have a conversation with that other person, it helps in terms of navigating time and space and all that. But sometimes you don't have a choice. They just show up because not everyone's as evolved as you may be in the
That part.
process or have a child
That was
first
so nicely
I
said.
mentality.
know it's
They're not
really
all
that is evolved.
evolved. in the same way that
Delightful.
you may be. They're not going to be polite
Way
all
too
the
kind.
time. You may have to, didn't she say zen? Maybe you should zen yourself.
There's Zen and then there's Zip.
And then there's Smith Wesson. How about that part?
Square up. So
Right. Then there's the Ali part, the knuckle baron.
It's tough. But you know
It's
what?
tough.
One of the things is, as the kids, it's interesting, as my girls got older and they started to date and they started to be older, there were so many times they would come to her like, Mom, oh my God, remember that? But that must have been hard for that. But they start to see it because now they're like, what? You know?
Right.
But
Yeah.
they would bring up, we have these conversations now that obviously I didn't have with them when they were much younger, because they're like, so they appreciate, they understand how difficult it must have been to have us be able to do certain things because for them it was great when they would look out from a play they were in or some production and Dad was there and I was there, and he got remarried very quickly.
Yeah.
I got married 5 years ago.
Congrats.
15 years after my divorce.
Love it.
So I was single for 15 years, but they were used to like me coming to their events by myself. Their dad had a family and all of that. But they realized it must have been pretty difficult, and it is tough. And every situation, there are going to be times when you just can't stay in the room. It's tough, but that's the bottom line. Figuring out what kind of support you have. Sometimes you have to pre-game and debrief with your support system. I'm going into this thing 2 hours.
Yeah.
Just figure out how to support yourself. But as time goes by, and that's why I say eventually. Right? Time doesn't heal all wounds, but time that you're always going to have the scar of the divorce. So when I talk about being positive, it's not toxic positivity where you're like erasing the fact that you went through a difficult time. It's the fact that you're going to always know there was a hard stop. The divorce was tough. The process was hard, and the scar will always be there. But that doesn't make you the person. It makes you a different person. But not different bad, not different bitter, not different. You're more discerning, you're wiser, a lot of things have changed.
Much better.
But a better person for that process. And as time goes on, as you've processed your emotions and stuff, now the kids, if they were younger, are now adults.
Yes.
Their
and
childhood
they're
is
learning grace from you. So that's
Yes.
another lesson, so they're learning how to rise above negative situations.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
but
how to get through tough times.
and it's not perfect. And when people, so I remarried now. Our daughter just had her high school graduation. I'm there with my husband and now my bonus sons. Their dad's there with his family and their half brother, and but this is 20 years ago. We got
20
divorced, right?
years.
We got divorced in 2005. I was under
Yeah.
40, and there are more people I know now who are divorced. Then
Yeah.
Right.
it was like the struggle bus. I was like
Yeah.
trying to find my new tribe.
It's not like it is on TV. 20 years later,
No.
you are, finally gelling as a unit again. So I'm going to close with that because what I will tell you is I have had a similar experience. I don't know if it's been 20 years, but I would say that now it's better than it was, right? So whoever is out there listening, and Sandy, I don't know if you could say the same, but time, it may not heal the wounds, but you will have learnings and you will have experiences that will take you to a new place, is what your book has told us. And those 10 years and 10 years and 10 years, it gets better and better if you keep working at it and realizing and knowing that you do have to keep working at it and that you're not alone, that you were in it with one person, but it was experienced by many,
Right.
by a tribe. And so we're all kind of in that space together. So I'm just going to say thank you again for doing this. Thank you for talking about it so openly and with transparency and insight, and for sharing, those new experiences that we can have that will maybe give us a different and a better outcome, and to get over that very difficult, tough space and time in our lives.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I just think in my head, the better, not bitter, and how struggle really just makes you stronger. When you look back, you are like, sometimes, how did I manage that? And you did. You know, you
Yes,
did,
you
and your
did.
children did, you know, and they weren't part of that statistic. And so that's a win.
That's a
Thank you
win.
so much. And
Thank you
yeah,
again. And listen, everyone go out, rush, and
and
get this
get the
incredible book. Read it, keep it on your
mm-hmm.
nightstand, and you probably will have to refer to it
Go back.
many, many
Yeah,
times
I go
to,
back to it too.
yes, just as reminders on how to get through that difficult thing called the D word, divorce. Thanks again,
Yeah.
Dr.
Thank
Toyin
you.
Falusi. Thanks for joining. And thank you, Dr. Ford, for
Pleasure.
bringing
Great
all of
topic.
this together for us. And thank you, all of our audience and fans, Griot Connects. We love you. Have a great week. Bye now.
Thank you. Thank you.